Well, good morning, Sojourn. Peace be with you. It's good to be with you guys this morning. My name's Jonah. I'm one of the pastors here at Sojourn. If you're visiting with us, welcome. Thanks for making us part of your Easter tradition this year. Our mission as a church is to reach people with the gospel of Jesus Christ, build one another up as his church, and send each other to follow him as instruments of his truth, beauty, and goodness into the world. Thank you so much for being here. If you're visiting, you should know I can get emotional sometimes. Amen. Which means sometimes I cry unexpectedly during sermons. I don't think that's going to happen today, but it's Easter and I'm a little wound up. So we'll see what happens. I do have kind of a good news, bad news situation to begin the sermon this morning. It's holiday, it's Easter, it's a happy day, so I'll start with the bad news to get it out of the way. But a couple of weeks ago, I came home from work to some terrible news. A mosasaurus was attacking my living room. If you don't know what a mosasaurus is, I have a picture of one, I think. See if it came through, maybe. Is it there? We have one? I don't know. There's supposed to be one. It's a huge dinosaur that lives in the water. And it's got millions of teeth. It's like bigger than a school bus. Mosasaurus, okay? So I want you to imagine you come home and a mosasaurus is attacking your living room. That ruins your day. I was scared, needless to say. My wife was scared. But my 4-year-old, Salem, was not scared. Salem's name comes from the Hebrew word for peace and wholeness. So it was a fitting name at the time. He came to me filled with confidence, and he said, "Daddy, don't be afraid. Chase and the pups are on the case." If you don't know what that is the Paw Patrol, the sworn protectors of Adventure Bay. For the next half an hour, the pups defended Adventure Bay from a mosasaurus. Laying on the floor, we were transported into a world of wonder. The pups had to become super pups when we learned that the mosasaurus could breathe fire. Sky got out her special mobile. Salem calls their vehicles mobiles. So Sky got out her special mobile when then the mosasaurus turned out could fly as well. Rubble and Rocky and Zuma were able to flip the monster onto its back, exposing its Smaug-like underbelly, and we defeated him, and the pup saved the day. Thanks be to God. Children so often are wonder machines. Children are hope factories. And I miss that. One of the most surprising parts, at least for me, about being an adult, you remember when you learned you were an adult? It's not like you're 18 and you're an adult. It's usually something when you realize your taxes are late or when you're like fussing over your car insurance payment and you found, whatever. But one of the most surprising parts about being an adult for me is how hard it is to hope. When we're kids, or if you have kids, you ever notice how every rock becomes a mountain to climb, every tree becomes a giant to slay, every puddle becomes an ocean to explore? The snails in my backyard, snails and slugs, fascinate my children more than a buried treasure. And I miss that. I probably shouldn't say this part, but Easter's hard for me because Easter's supposed to be a day of hope. And at least for me, hope feels hard. I want to hope that the night is almost over. You know what I mean? I want to hope that the night is almost over. I want to hope that this was the last school shooting. I want to hope that this was the last unprovoked war, the last unexpected diagnosis, the last word spoken hastily that turned into another argument with the one that I love most. I want to hope that the night is almost over, but hope feels hard for me. And when hope feels hard, I want to escape. That same day, 2 of Jesus' followers were walking to the village of Emmaus. 7 miles from Jerusalem. As they walked along, they were talking about everything that had happened. 2 of Jesus' followers had hoped that the night was almost over. They hoped that Jesus was the hero who would slay the monster and save the day. But they watched Jesus die, and they watched Jesus be buried. And have you ever noticed how everyone went into hiding after that? Everybody ran. These 2 went to Emmaus, 7 miles away. What would need to be going on in your life to convince you that a 7-mile walk in the middle of the day was a good idea? How must they have felt? Emmaus is a real place that they went to. It actually exists. And it's a place that I think we all go to as well, especially when hope feels hard. One of my favorite authors, Frederick Buechner, I don't know. He says this: Emmaus is the place that we go in order to escape. A bar, a movie, wherever it is, we throw up our hands and say, let the whole thing go hang. It makes no difference anyway. Emmaus may be buying a new suit or a new car or smoking more cigarettes than you really want or reading a second-rate novel or even writing one. Emmaus may be going to church on Sunday. Emmaus is whatever we do or wherever we go to make ourselves forget that this world holds nothing sacred, that even the wisest and bravest and loveliest decay and die, that even the noblest ideas that men have had, ideas about love, freedom, and justice, have always in time been twisted out of shape by selfish men for selfish ends. You ever felt that way before? Where is Emmaus for you? Do you know? Where do you go when hope feels hard? I don't know what was waiting for these men in Emmaus. I don't know what they were expecting to find there, but we know why they went. Hope had grown hard, and they were caught in between the pain of deep longing and deeper disappointment. The promises of the prophets, even the words of Jesus, none of it numbed their pain, so they ran, they escaped, and they went to Emmaus. As they were talking, verse 25 says, Jesus himself suddenly came and began walking with them. How does Jesus respond to their lack of faith, their escapism, their doubt, their disappointment? He himself came suddenly, and what? To yell? To correct? To critique? To chide or tease? He walked with them. Did you notice that? He walked with them. Verse 26, but God kept them from recognizing him. Maybe you say, why did he do this? To which I would say, I have no idea. I have no idea. But that's not the good news. I wish I knew what his thought process was for keeping them from recognizing him, but that's not the good news here. The good news for them was that God was with them even though they didn't know it. Did you hear that? God was with them even as they were escaping, doubting, depressed, and disappointed. Was God with them because of their great faith? Obviously not. Was he with them because of their abounding hope? Obviously not. Or their great love for the mission of the church? Why was God with them? Because God chose to walk with them. They didn't see, they didn't ask for it, and they certainly weren't expecting it. Verse 17 said, he asked them, what are you discussing so intently as you walk along? This is a little bit funny, you guys. I was hoping somebody would chuckle. Jesus, who they are mourning, appears suddenly and says, hey fellas, what you guys talking about? It's funny. Would you see how kind and disarming it is? Of all of the questions God could show up to ask people who were doubting, who were abandoning, who were depressed and disappointed, He shows up unexpectedly with a posture of curiosity. If you're not that familiar with the Bible, I want to share with you now some of God's favorite questions to ask people, especially after they've made horrific mistakes. In the scriptures, God likes asking things like, "Where are you? What do you want? Where are you going? Why are you here?" Or now, "What are you fellas talking about?" I know how hard it is to hope. But I want you to know that God is close to you, even now. I know that you don't see it. I know that you aren't expecting it. And maybe you're afraid to believe that because no one's ever told you that God comes to you with questions and not with condemnation. If you read this story in Luke 24, these men pour their hearts out to Jesus. They share their deep pain with him, their longings and their disappointments. They didn't know that they were speaking to God, but they were honest. And I feel very confident that God's favorite place to show up is the honest place. The places where people are saying it like it actually is, not like it should be, not like it could be. God doesn't prefer holy places or pretty places. He prefers honest places. When the night seemed darkest, and even on the road of escapism, these men were honest. Jesus' response to their honesty, maybe this is the response that you were expecting from him. He says to them, "You foolish people, you find it so hard to believe all that the prophets wrote in the scriptures." There it is, right? The hammer drops, he's going to insult them, he's going to blow them up, he's going to fire and brimstone them or something. The pain of people's doubt was real for Jesus. It grieves God in the same way it would grieve a father watching his child make another painful choice. But watch what comes next. Then Jesus took them through the writings of Moses, all the prophets, explaining from all the scriptures the things concerning himself. You see the patient kindness of God? If God was just angry with them, he would have just stormed off. "You foolish people, I'm done with you." Instead, this part is so striking to me. Did you notice God slowed to a walking pace with them? He patiently explains to them that everything was going according to plan. In the midst of their doubt and their depression and their disappointment, God meets them at their pace and in their place, patiently, slowly, kindly. And he helps them to understand. But helping them to understand did not help them to see. They wanted more from this man. The Bible lesson was not enough. The answers were not enough. They wanted more. When they get into Emmaus, Jesus essentially says, "Have a good day, fellas. It was nice chatting with you." And these guys are like, "You have to come to dinner with us. You have to stay. We have to hear more." They were hungry. Later in the story, we learn that they described the feeling of Jesus' Bible study as their bones being on fire within them. They were hungry for more. They begged him to stay for dinner, and he did. So consider with me for a moment, especially you who come this morning low on hope, high on disappointment and discouragement. In their deepest pain, what does God do? He shows up unexpectedly. He meets them where they are. He goes at their pace, and then he eats with them. As they sat down to eat, Jesus took the bread and blessed it. That sound familiar? If you come here every Sunday, familiar with the idea of taking bread and blessing it? Then Jesus broke it and gave it to them. That sound familiar? Suddenly, their eyes were opened and they recognized him. And at that moment, he disappeared. They said to each other, "Didn't our hearts burn within us as he talked with us on the road and explained the scriptures to us. And within the hour, they were on their way back to Jerusalem. When the Bible study was over, they were sad and they wanted more. When they saw that it was Jesus, even though he disappeared, what did they do? They didn't even finish eating. They went right back to Jerusalem, which, if you've forgotten, was another 7-mile walk. The Bible study made their hearts burn. They wanted more. It was good and beautiful and powerful, but they burned for more. What was it they were burning for? It was Jesus. It was Jesus they wanted, and it was Jesus that was enough. What was enough for their disappointment and their discouragement and their depression and their lack of hope? More than the answers and more than the explanations, it was Jesus that was enough for them. It was enough to turn from their pain. It was enough to go back home. He was enough. I don't know what disappointments you carry with you this morning. I don't know if hope has grown hard for you like it has for me. But I want to invite us this morning to be prepared to be surprised by hope. Be prepared to be surprised by hope. He's with you. Even if you don't see it, he's meeting you in your place, at your pace, even now. He's not setting you up to tease you or chide you or embarrass you, but to save you, to inspire you, and to heal you. Be prepared to be surprised by hope. Expect his coming. Expect his nearness. And I know some of y'all are in bad shape, thinking about making bad choices, and I want you to know that Jesus may come to you on your way to Emmaus. Maybe in his word, maybe even over a meal, maybe even over a stranger who comes up to you and says, "Hey, what are you fellas talking about?" I don't know where, but I know he will come to you. So be prepared to be surprised by hope. You may not see it, but he's coming. He's near, and he's enough. So look for him. You cannot escape him. He will find you. He will come for you, even as you head to your Emmaus. So again, be prepared to be surprised by hope. You are not forgotten. You are not forgotten. Hope is not lost. He loves you. He won't stop pursuing you, and he is with you because he is risen. Be prepared to be surprised by hope. If you're willing and able, please stand with me and we'll pray together.